This is really came from Curtis Harris. I call it the Curtis Harris method, and he's got a video that I'll link in the blog post and in the notes here. But it's really an evolution of that. So I'll show you kind of how I learned to start a dashboard from him, and I'll show you all the different benefits. First, we're going to do what most people do, and I'll show you a lot of the pitfalls. We're going to build this dashboard. All these sheets are built already, and you can essentially see that engagements is consisted of 2 sheets, a KPI and a bar chart. Each one of these is kind of the same way, right? And this is using Tristan's Bang, the band creators. So we have 12 sheets, and I just want to create this dashboard. So if I were doing this the normal way, what I'd probably do is start with this blank dashboard. And since we sort of have these, looks like vertical containers inside horizontal containers, let's just start with throwing a horizontal container out there, and then we're going to want 3 vertical containers, right? So I don't know, I'm not really sure where to put it, so let's just put it there. We'll put another one there, and then one note: no matter how you're doing it, it's always easier to put it in the middle than over here, because you don't really know what you're getting over here. So put it in the middle, and then we should distribute these evenly. Wait a minute, there's no distribute evenly option, so what's happening there? Not really sure. Okay, so now we have these vertical containers. I can distribute those evenly, so that's good. And then if we look back at this original, we have 2 in each of these, so maybe we need in each of these 3 vertical containers, we need 2 vertical containers, right? So you might hear my dog barking in the background. So, all right, so we're going to put a vertical container here, and then another one there, and then we'll do the same thing here, another one here, here, and here. And from here, let's take a look at what we've got. If I double click this, I should select the whole container. Wait a minute, what's happening? It's selected that whole one. I expected it to just pick the vertical, like here. What happened to my vertical container that was here? And we'll see this kind of all over the place as I double click to select a container. It's not doing what I expect. So when we go look at the layout here, we have this gigantic tiled thing. What is this tiled thing? Well, everything is underneath it. And let's take a look at the containers that we created. We've got a horizontal container, that's the big one. Then we have a vertical container and a vertical container in that. And then we have another vertical container. So we have a horizontal, vertical, vertical. And then here along with the horizontal, we have a vertical and then a vertical in it. So these are different already. That looks similar. And then we have these 3 vertical containers that are sort of out by themselves. What the heck happened? I expected to have 1 horizontal container, 3 vertical containers, and then 2 vertical containers within each of those 3 vertical containers. That's not at all what we have. Let's start dropping in sheets and just seeing kind of what happens. So let's put here, there. Just do all these real quick. Won't worry about titles and things like that. All right, KPI 6. All right. So now let's look at our layout. Let's see if there's any consistency. Horizontal, vertical, vertical, 2 KPIs. Vertical, vertical, 2 KPIs. Vertical, vertical, 2 KPIs. So these are similar. And then all of a sudden, these see where these charts are. They're a level above these, and these are all happen to be the same. So this is just a mess, right? This is just a mess. So I'm going to show you the way to start off that will be game changing for the way in which you build dashboards using layout containers. And I'll also show you a couple little tips along the way. All right, so let's start. Instead of just dropping a horizontal container on there, what we're going to do is we're going to float a horizontal container on the view. We're not going to tile it. We're not just going to drop it on like this. We're actually going to float it. So you can change tile to floating here. By the way, if you hold the shift key while you're dragging something out, it'll do the opposite of what's shown here. So, but let's do this. I'm going to hold the shift key and I'm just going to float this out. And then we're going to make this horizontal container the size of the dashboard. So we're going to put it at 0, 0, XY, and then the size of the dashboard is 1511 by 850. Now we're going to do exactly the same thing we did before. We're going to drag our containers out. I should note before we move on, before we couldn't distribute contents evenly. Now we can, right? So this container allows us to do that. So we'll distribute contents evenly. Now let's drop in some vertical containers. There's one. Put the other one out to the side. We see there's two now. And then, like I said before, it's just easier to stick it in the middle. If we try and put it over here, if I put it here, it's going to drop this vertical inside the other vertical. Put it out here, it would work, but it's much easier just to see it when we're dropping them in the middle. So now we have 3 vertical containers. They are evenly distributed across this horizontal container. Let's now evenly distribute each of those. And just like before, we want to have 2 vertical containers in each one of these current vertical containers. So let's do that. We'll drop one here, and then let's drop another one right here, right? And then let's do the same thing over here. I think I might have grabbed a horizontal, but they're all the same as Ken showed at Tableau Conference 2016. So vertical container, and then another vertical container. Now let's check out the hierarchy here. If we go to layout, and we have something that seems really reasonable, right? We have this horizontal container. We have a vertical container that contains 2 vertical containers. We have another one that contains 2 vertical containers. And we have a third one that contains 2 vertical containers. We don't have that tiled thing in our way. And these things are laid out exactly like we wanted to, as we expected. If I double click this, you'll see it select that whole container. Double click, and then if we double click again, it should select the whole horizontal container. So this is built exactly like we want. So let's drop in some sheets just like before. Put them here. Try and do this quickly. You can see, and we're not double clicking. We want control over where things are going, right? And I'm just dropping them into place. And boom, we've created this dashboard. Again, let's take a look at the hierarchy. We have a horizontal container. We have one big vertical container here. Then we have another vertical container with 2 sheets in it, another with 2 sheets. And then we repeat that exactly the same. Vertical with 2 verticals, right? If we want to pull this back a little bit, we got a vertical with 2 verticals, and then each of those verticals have a KPI in it. Again, same thing here. Vertical with 2 verticals, and each have, I call them KPIs, but each has 2 sheets. If we look at this whole thing, all of them are identical all the way through, right? And really easy to grab. If we wanted to move this around, and we could just double click this, select this vertical container, and drag it up here, right? Really easy to move things around. And unlike when you get this big tiled thing, these things become very, very difficult, as we saw here before, where these things were just sort of random out by themselves, right? They weren't even in that other container. All right, one other piece of advice. When we're trying to build, bring in containers that'll contain sheets, it's much easier to build these when they are floating outside, not tiled within our dashboard. So right now we have this vertical container that contains 2 verticals, right? Let's get rid of that, and let's say that I built this dashboard, and I needed to add in those two more KPI cards, right? The KPI and the bar chart, and another KPI and another bar chart. I could just come over here and drag in a vertical container right here, and then we could start doing what I just did. But what I've found is when you do that, for some reason, things get a little quirky, and sometimes they don't seem like they want to go where they want to go. So it is much easier if you start off by just floating the container and building this as a floating element, right? So let's just make this white for now. I used an outline. That's not what I want. I want a background color of white so we can see it. So we're going to rebuild one of these using those leftover charts. And so we need a vertical container, right? Distributed evenly. And then we want another vertical container inside that, and another one right there. And sometimes easier to go to the top rather than the bottom. and we've got that distributed evenly. So if we look at our hierarchy here, we've got a vertical container containing 2 vertical containers. And then let's just drop our sheets in. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so we can work with it a little more easily. Which ones are missing? KPI 3 and bar chart 3, and then KPI 6 and bar chart 6. Right? All right. Now what we can do, now we've built this, now we can take this whole thing, and I'm going to hold the shift key, and I'm just going to drag it out here to the right, and this will slot in. Now, you may be able to easily build this by putting the vertical container down first, but I've found lots of problems to the point where I don't ever do that. I always float it first, build it in that floating container, and when you're done with that whole entire container, then you can drop it in to your dashboard by tiling it in. Again, if we look at this, it's really easy to follow, really easy to look at these elements and understand where they are. Double click that vertical, get this vertical, double click this vertical, and we get the horizontal, right? So much easier way of doing it. Now, one thing to be aware of is when you are adding filters, this dashboard, this whole entire dashboard is in one horizontal container that is floating. So if we were to come in here and let's say we wanted to add a filter, current period, do you see where it went? I didn't see it. I don't see it dropped in anywhere. I can't find it. Let's add another one, filter. And for some reason, I've got something broke on my dashboard, so we'll just back that off. But what is happening is the filter is back behind this floating horizontal container. If I come over here and I just move it, you see it's right here. Right. So the easiest way to deal with this is it's when you drop a filter in and you don't see it in your view, just come to your layout and look at your hierarchy, and then this pesky little tiled thing is back, right? So what we need to do is look for the vertical container containing those filters. You'll see it being selected over here, and let's just go change this to floating. Now if we add another filter here, it's going to, I don't know why it's disappearing, so just ignore that. These filters are going to drop into this floating window. So I'll back that off. Let's add a parameter, for example, and these parameters are going to drop right into that box. So you can design with this floating box until you're ready to actually use the filters or just get rid of them. So beware of that. This method has changed the way I work with dashboards. I just worked with a client's dashboard where they had done the tiled thing. They had another consultant to do the tiled thing. It took me hours to try and piece this thing together. As I moved every element, everything shifted and it didn't go in the places I wanted. And I resized containers, and it was resizing in weird ways, wouldn't let me do certain things. You probably all ran into these issues. So almost all these issues are solved by starting with the very first point, float your first container, and then tile everything within that floating container. You'll have a nice hierarchy. It's easier to drop these elements in, and you'll have a lot less pains as you're working with that dashboard. Again, big shout out to Curtis Harris. He has a video, what I know about layout containers, that I'll link to. This is game changing. I think he made this video 10 years ago. And I've been doing it probably for the last 6 or 7 years. Incredible method. I'd encourage you to do it. It'll save you tons of time and save the people that are working with your dashboards later tons of time as well. All right. Thank you.